Welcome to this week's End of Days Update, coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We had such a great time last week in Powder Springs, Georgia. And if you're anywhere near Canton, Ohio, we'll be at Faith Family Church tonight. And then we'll be at the Effingham Camp Meeting with Ross Roberts Ministries with Joey Roberts, Scott Webb, and plenty of others. We'll have so much fun. That's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning. And then if you're anywhere near Terre Haute, Indiana, we'll be in Terre Haute this Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Monday night. We'll have a great time. So we're coming to you every week to look at the different things that point to the coming of the Lord, specifically the gathering of nations for the Ezekiel 38 war, because the rapture is signless. The second coming has tons of signs. So if we can look at what happens just after the Ezekiel 38 war, or the setup for the Ezekiel 38 war, we can see how close we are to the rapture, apparently. So how amazing that there's more verses written about what it would look like just before the coming of the Lord. That's so kind of the Lord to do that. You know, for every one verse there is about the coming of the Lord the first time, there's 8 times more about the second coming. So it's very documented. Why would the Lord do that? He'd want us to have a heads up. And as we get into all these things about end times, it's not about an escape theology. It's about an acceleration theology. When we see the finish line, we run faster, not slower. Boy, there's so much going on. It's hard to get into it every week, but Jesus wanted us to know the times. You know, he the only time he ever rebuked the crowd was over them not knowing their hour of their visitation. He said, you can tell what the weather's going to be, but you don't know your hour of your visitation. He rebuked the Pharisees over and over again, but the only time he rebuked the crowd was about the time. So it's a big deal. I hear people go, why would we need to know about how close we are to the coming of the Lord? Tell a quarterback in the last few minutes of the game when he's looking at the play clock wind down, you make changes in your plays, you accelerate, everything has an urgency to it that has to get into the church. And man, we're looking at things are an absolute countdown to the coming of the Lord. I hear people say, all these signs have all happened before. No, they've never happened before. We're a very, very blessed generation. So let's pick up what's happened around Israel this last week. Obviously, it's winding down quite a bit from the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. Pretty horrific things that were happening with all those 4,000 rockets firing into Israel. The families that had kids running to bomb shelters. The media doesn't talk about that at all. We'll get into that a little bit here. There's such an uptick of anti-Semitism. The front page of the New York Times says Israel murdered 66 children. Well, no, the Palestinians and Hamas fired rockets at Israel, 4,000, and Israel did everything they could not to hurt any individuals. They go to such great lengths that it's absolutely extreme, and then they only get blamed the other way. But that just shows you who's behind the media influence, and that's Lucifer. So it's intriguing to see the increase of all the mentality. Even last week, 2 weeks ago, it bothers England a lot. Facebook basically removed an Israeli site that had 77 million followers because they're calling Israel an apartheid state. You had people this last week calling Israel an apartheid state. It's so insane they try to call it occupied territory when there's a tie to the land thousands of years ago. You had Iran, one of their generals, coming out today saying the land doesn't belong to Israel, it belongs to Islam, it belongs to Iran. So it's pretty wild. You have the president of Turkey, Erdogan. A lot of things happened with Turkey this last week, but he said in the passing days, let's gather all of Islam and ascend to the Temple Mount and take Jerusalem and the Temple Mount from the Jews. So you're seeing that pressure on that piece of real estate in Israel where Jesus is going to reign forever. So Lucifer's doing everything he can to mess with that. So with that, you had Turkey continuing their trouble in Libya. Same thing with Greece. It looks like they're trying to make more of a peace accord with Greece now. But then you had them in the northern part of Syria, had them in Iraq. So you had basically Turkey with military men all the way completely around Israel, surrounding Israel. Why? Because Erdogan said, we will ascend under the Temple Mount and take it from Israel. And then he said, Turkey said, why am I saying this? Because Turkey and Iran and Syria and Russia are the main players in the Ezekiel 38 war. So when you hear the verbiage of this, it lets you know where they're coming from. I mean, basically Turkey said last year, oh, by the way, Jerusalem doesn't belong to Israel, it belongs to Turkey. I mean, it's insane. The Temple Mount belongs to Turkey. So this is how insane it is, and I said it probably about 5 or 6 years ago on the End of Days Update. Haven't said it any time lately, and I meant to the last few weeks. There are no such things as a Palestinian people, because you got Hollywood and all these people this last week go, well, we're for the Palestinians, but we're not for Hamas. Hamas is the Palestinians. Now listen, that sounds crazy to say that's a made-up word. Hafez Assad told the Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat, Hafez Assad was the old leader of Syria. He was a mean dictator. He said to the PLO head, Yasser Arafat, there are no such things as Palestinians. That's a made-up word. They're Arabs, they're Turks, there's he went through showing what those all were, but there were no such thing as Palestinians. So when you have Hafez Assad saying that, it just shows you the reality of what's going on in the land. But man, you got 5 asteroids coming this next week doing flybys of the Earth. One of them's as high as the Washington Monument. You've got not just the mice in Australia, but now you got snakes in Australia, weird weather all over. You got cyber attacks that are bizarre. You got a real bizarre mentality coming up saying that the rapture is not supposed to happen, saying that's the doctrine from the 1880s. That's the same crud that came out years ago. The rapture is a godly doctrine from Enoch, all the way from Elijah, all the way from Jesus, all the way from the church. And so it's amazing when you hear the opposition to truth, and that's a blatant point right now. So many more things with Russia. Russia moved several more of their Tupolev large, heavy, long-range bombers into Syria, and then they touted their big air bases up in the northern pole. With that, they added 20 new battalions to the western part of Russia to counteract NATO. So you got Russia doing stuff, you got Turkey doing stuff, you got Israel doing stuff, you have Netanyahu's opposition people coming against him. It looks like this is going to be the ouster for Benjamin Netanyahu, because you've got conservatives going to liberal just to get rid of Netanyahu. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks politically in Israel. So all this stuff is coming together at one time because the king's coming. Jesus is about to come back. So exciting. Jesus said, lift up your heads, your redemption's drawing nigh. So we always go to the scriptures when there's all this stuff happening. The blatant stuff and the exact stuff and the precise stuff is in the Bible. Luke 21, Jesus said the generation that sees Jerusalem won back and Israel made a nation, he said that generation won't pass away till all is fulfilled. But there are many more signs. Those are major. But you got the language restored, the Hebrew language restored. You got the Ethiopian Jews brought back. You got the fertility of the land of Israel. You got the revival of the Roman Empire. You have the Temple Mount Institute. They're ready to start having sacrifices. Man, just the plans for the Millennial Temple are so amazing. The pictures of it and all the architectural things that they have. The whole book of Ezekiel has many chapters dedicated to that Millennial Temple. So it's very cool to see men right now in position to get ready for that. After that, you got 172 different species of predatory birds showing up in the land of Israel, the cleanup crew. You had fish show up in the Dead Sea. You had foxes show up on the Temple Mount. You had the ritual baths around the Temple Mount fill up with water. You had the Sea of Galilee fill up with water. So you have all these things pointing to the coming of the Lord. Rabbi Yitzhak Kaduri, Jesus appearing to him getting saved, and him prophesying that Israel will be ruled by 2 Benjamins just for the coming of the Lord. You had Benjamin Netanyahu, Benjamin Gantz this last year. You had Russia rebuild the arch in Palmyra for Baal worship. The Talmud says that's one of the last things you'd see before the coming of the Messiah. So it's just on and on and on. Tangible, physical things to look at to show you you're super close to the coming of the Lord. So we go from signs to signals. You had blood red moons on Passover and Tabernacles a few years ago. Pretty remarkable that God would have it in a row like that on Passover and Tabernacles. When's the last time you had 4 in a row? NASA calls it a tetrad. 1967 when Jerusalem was won back. 1948 when Israel was made a nation. 1492 at the Edict of Expulsion when the Jews were kicked out of Spain. So remarkable. So you have that, the heavens screaming to us, Jesus is about to come back. But then this last year you had even more. You had the Bethlehem Star, first time in 2,000 years. The birth of Jesus, you had Jupiter, Regulus, Venus coming together. This last year, the Bethlehem Star happened, first time in 2,000 years. The constellation was Leo. He's the lion of the tribe of Judah. The first time it was Virgo because he was born of a virgin. So the heavens are showing us the glory of God, speaking to us, signaling us that Jesus is just about to come. So that's remarkable. Many more signs that I never get into. The September 23rd sign from Revelation 13 when the woman was the crown of thorns, the crown of stars on her head, representing all these things, the nations of Israel, a child being born representing the Messiah. All those things happen and different things happen in the heavens, indicative and coinciding with certain things happening to Israel on the ground. Pretty remarkable to have signs in the heavens and signs on the earth because Jesus is about to come back to the planet. Aren't we blessed? So what do? Help our local church, help our local pastor, get the message out. We have a lot to do in a short period of time. I believe we don't have much time left at all, but there has to be a blast of a harvest as much as we can right here before Jesus comes. So let's make the best of it with heaven showing us all this, with the Bible showing us all this. Let's let it motivate us to walk as we ought to walk right now before the coming of the Lord. Well, come back next week. We'll look and see what's happened. Thank you guys for all your support. Colleen and I are so appreciative of all your prayers and your support. We want to get the message out in every different venue that we can, and we know in this short period of time the Lord will help us, and we sure appreciate your help. Come back next week and we'll look at what all's happening, because I know more is going to happen around Israel. So much more is happening with the military side of it. I didn't even get into this. The International Atomic Energy Agency talked about this last week, how Iran's rapidly ready to produce a nuclear weapon. So wow, Jesus is just about to come. Have a blessed, awesome week. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks for joining us today at the End of Days Update. If you'd like to be notified every time there's a new post, just go to the edu at josephmorris.com and subscribe to receive email alerts. If these posts and updates have been a blessing to you, please consider making a one-time donation to help get the message out, or even becoming a monthly partner with Joseph Morris Ministries. Thanks again for tuning in to the EDU, and we'll see you next week.